Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Why your favorite rapper is broke. You guys are like, what? My favorite rapper is broke. Now, if I'm your favorite rapper, by the way, I'm not broke. But I'm actually, it's been a good year for me. But that's neither here nor there. Why your favorite rapper broke? You guys hear these stories all the time. You guys see them in the media. You guys hear about people who are coming out. They're famous. And then, you know, later down the road, you find out they weren't doing as good as you thought they were doing. I'm going to give you guys the mechanics of it. I'm going to explain to you how the major label system works and how it positions artists to be broke. I'm going to go over all of it, and this should empower you. This should really empower you, okay? So we know this happens. We know this happens with major label artists, independent artists. We have people who do athletes, right? Entertainers. People go broke all the time. And I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of how this happens and why this happens. But I'm going to give it to you in a different way. I'm going to point back to some ancient wisdom that a lot of people have overlooked and give you guys why this is. Now, the first reason is, by and large, artists who get popping and get signed at major labels, by and large, end up doing it when they're younger. What does that mean? That means that if you look at the average life of anybody, any other industry, any musician, non-musician, non-athlete, just look at somebody that works a job, look at somebody that's an engineer, look at somebody that's an entrepreneur. Your income goes up as you get older, meaning that you don't make a ton of money from 18 to 22, from 22 to 25. A lot of people's income doubles, and then it kind of keeps doubling. And by the time you're in your 40s and your 50s, that's when your peak income is for the majority of people who work normal jobs. What does that mean? Well, that means that you're also more mature. You also know how to handle it. You also are a bit more equipped. You've lived life a little bit. Maybe you have some more responsibilities. Maybe you got a family. You can't just be reckless with your money. Well, when you're an artist, when you're an athlete, what happens? You make the lion's share of your life's income. Think about this for a minute. You make the lion's share of your life's income earlier in the process, and you eventually fizzle out, meaning that you're not the new artist anymore. You're not the fresh athlete anymore. Your worth kind of fizzles out, right? And that's not good. That's not good. So I'm going to read you guys something, and don't be alarmed, but it's from Proverbs, one of my favorite books. Proverbs, written by the wisest man who's ever lived. Proverbs 20:21 says, an inheritance claimed too soon will not be blessed at the end. Okay, an inheritance claimed too soon will not be blessed in the end. I'm going to read you guys a different translation. There's multiple translations of this from just different ways. I'll read you guys the New Living Translation. A large gift received at one time in a hurry will not be good in the end. A large gift received at one time in a hurry will not be good in the end. Let's see. Let's read a couple different translations of this. I really want this to stick with you guys, because so many of us are trying to get rich overnight. So many of us are looking at these entertainers and these artists, and we're thinking that, man, they're living the good life, and they're not. Okay, an inheritance gained hastily in the beginning will not be a blessing in the end. If you make the lion's share of your life's money when you're the least equipped and mature to handle it, it's not a blessing in the end. This is true for people who win the lottery. This is true for people who blow up as rappers, blow up as athletes. You're not equipped to handle it. Why? Because you're just young, right? And this is speaking about an inheritance, but I would say give a 20-year-old $1 million. He's not going to know how to handle that. Give a 30-year-old $1 million, a 40-year-old $1 million. He's going to know how to handle that better. So don't desire for your lion's share of your life's income to come to you early, come to you instantly. Odds are you're going to ruin it. Odds are you're going to just you're going to lose it, right? And that's how it happens with entertainers. A lot of your favorite rappers got their big bag early on. They weren't equipped to handle it. And what happened? It ruined them, okay? Let's look up another one, okay? The second reason why your favorite artist is broke. Your favorite artist. And this is not coming at anybody in specifically, okay? This is by and large all different sections, all different pockets, right? The second reason is perpetually pleasure chasing. Access to excess, when you have the money and you have this thing inside of you that needs to be filled, you're trying to fill this void, you're trying to get your dopamine levels right. Access to excess will ruin you. It'll ruin you. And a lot of people who are younger or not equipped to handle money or have immediate access to excess end up ruining their lives because why? Because they're not equipped to handle it and they're perpetually pleasure chasing. And this could be applied. This idea we have to be careful of because we all should be mindful of this, because your phone could be access to excess. If you struggle with sexual immorality and then boom, now you can get on a Tinder app and hook up whenever you want to, right? Or you can look up porn. It's the same idea. It's access to excess, right? Check this out. Whoever loves pleasure will become what? Poor. There's a correlation here, guys. Whoever loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and olive oil will never be rich. Another translation of that, it says luxury. Luxury. Whoever loves pleasure. There's nothing wrong with pleasure, by the way, right? There's nothing wrong with pleasure. God created us to enjoy food, to enjoy our friends and family, to enjoy sex, right? Our bodies are wired to enjoy. That's why we have taste. That's why we have smell. There's nothing wrong with pleasure, right? It's when you perpetually pleasure chase and you love pleasure and you make that your main priority, right? If you make your priority in life, how can I gratify myself as much as possible? How could I eat as much cake? How can I eat as much cake? How could I eat as much junk food? How could I have as much sex as possible? How could I, right? Just if I'm just consumed with pleasure, you will be ruined. I'll read you another translation of this. Let's see. I think there's another one. The reason why it says olive oil, and I want to find this translation, because olive oil was attached to luxury. Okay? So olive oil is attached to luxury, and so you're into the nicer things, right? You're into the nicer things. So I'll read this translation to you. It's the New Living Translation. Here, Proverbs 21:17. It says it this way: those who love pleasure will become poor. Those who love wine and luxury will never be rich. Luxury. Are there things in your life that you kind of want the luxury, right? You kind of love the nicer things, right? You find your value in that Gucci belt. You find and there's nothing wrong with Gucci or Louis or Jordan or Yeezy or whatever, but your identity and your value is attached to those things. You love luxury. You got to be careful with that. You got to be very, very, very careful with that, because it'll make you poor, according to Proverbs, right? So perpetually pleasure chasing, perpetually wanting pleasure through wine, through alcohol, through sex, through luxury goods, it will ruin you, okay? So that's the second. So first reason is you get too much money too soon. You don't know how to handle it. That's the first one. The second one is perpetually pleasure chasing, trying to find pleasure, right? Trying to find pleasure. The third one is, and this is going to be interesting, but it's kind of attached, is advances. The way major label advances work are crazy. And a lot of cats who get signed in major labels, rappers, they get an advance. What does that mean? You get $100,000. Let's just call it $100,000. They don't even give out that much anymore, but let's give you $100,000. They own the master. They usually try to negotiate some degree of publishing, but boom, you get a big bag. That seems like a lot of money. It's not a lot of money, right? I've seen people blow through 60, 70,000 in 6 months, quick, right? So boom, you get $100,000. You're like, wow, this is $100. This is so much money. Oh my gosh, it's so much money. Oh my gosh, right? It's not a lot of money. But what happens is the label owns the master. What does that mean? That means they own that intellectual property. If you're lucky, you got some of your publishing left. Now, $100,000, that's a lot of money. It's not really a lot of money. But check this out. That $100,000 is recoupable, meaning the labels needs to make their money back first. What does that mean? That means that you recoup to the label off of your percentage. If you're lucky, one of the best deals you can get is a 25% royalty split. Seldom does a major label give out that much. It's usually in the 15 to 20%. But let's just call it 20%, which is a lot, right? That means in order for you to pay back that $100,000 advance, and we're not going to talk about recording costs, we're not going to talk about music videos, we're not going to talk about mastering, mixing, marketing. We're just going to talk about that $100,000, okay? For you to pay back that $100,000, you have to generate, because you can only pay back from your little slither of your 20%, right? You have to generate the label $500,000. So remember, You're only paying back from your 20%. So you got $100,000. Now you got to pay back that. And the first $500,000 comes in, $500,000 comes in. You don't get any money off that. There's no back end off that. They control the accounting, by the way. So they can kind of finesse and smudge some of these numbers. You start paying for sessions you didn't know you had. You start paying for sessions that, right? Boom. And so you got 100 bands. You didn't put the album out for a year later, so that 100 bands has to last you. And you gotta go out and, yeah, shout out to Will Purdue. You gotta also go out and go on tour, right? Which they used to not be able to touch that, but now that money is getting eaten up as well. They want a percentage of that. But let's just say now the label made, now mind you, the label made $400,000. It took you generating $500,000 in revenue to pay back that $100,000. This is the goofiest business system ever. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think any industry functions this way, where you have to pay them back only from your slither of your advance. Now, when I work with my artist, if I spend $10,000 on a record, the first $10,000 that comes in, I've paid myself back, right? Together, we recoup together. They don't have to make $20,000 to pay me back $10,000. You guys see how goofy that is? This is a system that positions the artist to remain in debt indefinitely to their labels. It's a loan. It's 100% a loan. And check out what the Proverbs say. Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is what? Slave to the lender. Slave to the lender. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Yeesh. And that's a awful interest rate, by the way. It's a terrible interest rate. So, third reason why your favorite artist is broke is because they're in debt. Right? They're in debt. And guess what? The justification used to be, oh, I'll just go on tour and I'll make my money on tour. I'm not even looking to get any money after my advance. Okay, cool. So they're not even caring about it, right? Just like, I'm going to get in, I'm going to get on, I'm going to get my bag. Boom. Then I'll go make my money on tour. Now, they take a percentage of that. It's called a 360 deal. Now, COVID hit. Ain't nobody touring. Touring shut down. Possibly until 2021. There's no festivals. There's no bags on tour. That's why your favorite artist is broke. That's why it's better to be independent. That's why it's better to own your own mastering. Would you rather have 10% of $1 million and have the headache that comes along with being on a label and all these people telling you what you can and can't do and all the fame and all the Instagram temptation and the DMs? Would you rather have 10% of $1 million, or would you rather have 100% in ownership of $100,000 that you could potentially take and flip into $1 million in 10 years from now? I'll take the 100%. I'll have the smaller profile. I'll work a little harder. I'll be a small business, and I'd rather own it because I could pass that publishing down. I could pass those masters down to my kids. Think about these things. Think about, especially in the light of my first 2 points. Now the last one, and then I'm going to get out of here. The last reason why your favorite artists are broke is they got lucky, right? They got lucky. They don't really understand what got them to where they're at. But the last reason is because they're lazy. They lack discipline. They have no self-control. They did a couple records. They got a little bit of buzz. They got a little bit of clout, but they don't really understand what it takes to sustain that. They don't really understand what it takes to recreate that. They don't really understand how much work you truly have to put in, how hard it is to really be on tour, how hard it is to consistently keep making music when you don't feel like it, when you don't feel inspired. How many times have you heard this? I'm just not inspired. That's why you got to stop approaching your art and your music like art and start approaching it like it's a media company. Start approaching it like it's a media company. So I'll read you guys this last word, Proverbs 10:4. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. A lot of your favorite artists aren't diligent. A lot of your favorite rappers aren't diligent. So when you take the first three, they get a bag early. They get a massive bag early. Okay? Then they're perpetually pleasure seeking. They probably have some unchecked trauma. They probably never went to therapy. They probably didn't. Maybe they have some degree of mental illness. They're not dealing with it. So boom, they have some of that, right? Perpetually pleasure chasing. And they're in debt. They're in debt to that label. They have to generate $500,000 to pay back $100,000. Imagine if you spend $1 million on a record. The mixing, the master, that's usually what a record costs to really launch on that pop star level. About $1 million. music videos, mixing, mastering, studio sessions. Them studio sessions are $1,500 a day, fam. Because now you're tricked. I'm signed. I got to be in the nice studio. I got to be with the good producers. I can't get the homies to make me the beats. I got to $1 million. You got to make $5 million to pay back that million. No one ever pays that back. You're in debt forever. And they carry that over to the next album, right? And then you're in the midst of all this. You're already not in a healthy place. Now you're probably doing more drugs. You're probably kind of, hoeing around. And I'm speaking to male artists. It's not a shot at females. And you don't have the grind and the work ethic to sustain yourself long term. You don't have the focus. You don't understand how much it takes. Not just to make music. That's the easy part, fam. The big picture. What's the marketing? Dropping consistent visuals, being active on social media, being friendly, being likable, not burning bridges, all the things they just did, right? Child support can be attached to perpetually pleasure chasing, by the way. That's a great point. Child support, perpetually pleasure chasing, have a bunch of different kids with a bunch of different women. Now you got to pay all them women. What do we just see? Dr. Dre's ex-wife, or the one he's going through, she wants $2 million a year for spousal support, right? It's not even child support, just spousal support. Perpetually pleasure chasing, right? Groupie child support. Yeah, shout out to you, W. Juden. So you guys see how it all connects? You guys see why your favorite rappers, a lot of them are broke, by the way. A lot of them, that's not their real money. Sometimes it's literally fake money they're stunting with. Those aren't real chains, right? Those aren't their houses. They don't own those houses outright. Those are leases. Those are Airbnbs. Guys, be careful what you desire. Be careful what you desire. You don't know what's on the other side. And a lot of stuff looks cool and it looks sexy, but it's not. It's not. So, hey, if you found this video enjoyable, do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification on. I got a video, how to get rich without getting lucky. I want you guys to go watch that. It'll be in the description. You can search it up. It'll be over here if you're watching the replay of this. How to get rich without getting lucky. I got a video. It's me reacting to Grand Stefan and Naval. Everybody should go watch that video. If you just search my name, Ruslan, how to get rich without lucky, go watch that video right now. It'll help you out a ton. Dig away a little deeper and start thinking a bit differently. Even if you're not an artist and you're not a rapper, I want you guys to think a bit differently on how to do this. And I'll put it over here on the replay. Again, Ruslan, how to get rich without getting lucky. It's me responding to Grand Stefan and Naval. It'll introduce you to some just different ways of thinking about money, about artistry, about business. I want you guys to all go check that out. Thank you guys so much. Hit that subscribe button. Help your boy get his first trophy.